Welcome to season 3 of the Iceman Kicking Podcast. My name is Brett Arkelian. Kick your feet up, relax, and enjoy this episode of the Iceman Kicking Podcast.
Well, why is a slower approach better?
We talk a lot about pacing control. You know, he can generate 63-yard field. I mean, he hit 65 yesterday and 4.35 minus 6-yard hang times.
Welcome, specialists, coaches, dads of kickers, moms of punters, relatives of long snappers, and dogs that shag kickoffs to the Iceman Kicking Podcast. It's the show with cold questions and even cooler guests. And I'm your host, as always, Brett Arkelian. We have a special episode today prepared for you, a pre-draft episode, if you will. I got some fantastic guests on that I'm fired up about. You know, I love to talk about the kicking industry and all that goes on. One of our guests from Notre Dame is a two-time Burlesworth Trophy nominee, a Lou Groza Award semifinalist, a three-time All-Sun Belt Conference Award winner, and the Notre Dame's Point Leader from 2022, Blake Grupe. The next guest is from the University of Arkansas. He earned first-team All-SEC honors as a kickoff specialist in his lone season at Arkansas. He led the SEC and finished fourth nationally with an average of 64 yards per kickoff, thanks to an SEC best 64 touchbacks. Jake Bates from Kentucky, finishing third in school history with a 44.3 yard average, a 5-time member of the SEC Fall Academic Honor Roll, and not just that, but a 10-time member of the Dean's List, Colin Goodfellow. From NC State, a 2-time All-Conference Award winner at Townson, a multiple-time All-American, and his best year, he averaged nearly 44 yards a punt, Shane McDonough. Also, we've got from the University of Minnesota, an academic All-Big Ten Award winner, a All-Big Ten honorable mention, a Big Ten Special Teams Player of the Week, MAC Special Teams Player of the Week, and an All-MAC First Team Award winner in 2018, Matt Trickett. And finally, rounding us out from the University of Southern Miss, a All-Conference USA athlete, a Zauner field goal competition winner, Briggs Bourgeois. And last but not least, the founder of Hammer Kicking Academy, which is a form-based kicking, punting, and long snapping camp. He trains close to 1,500 specialists each year and has put out 550 college athletes, placing in every major FBS conference, 45 NFL specialists, which I'm sure is more now, and is 100% on his commitments. Adam Tanalski. Adam, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us all on. It's our last night of pre-draft. If you got groupies on the bottom too. So, you know, thanks for having us all on, and we're excited about it. And, you know, we, a lot of respect for you, bud. And you've done great from Rice to Virginia Tech. Now, you know, to UC Davis out to Fresno State. We're excited to come on and talk to you.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm fired up anytime I get to talk to my specialists and someone as respected as you and all your specialists on here, man. It really fires me up. I like to start with the heavy hitters section. Adam, you mind if we start with the heavy hitters section presented by the Kicker's Bible? All right. One of my first questions right off the bat, you are known for getting guys out. I mean, as far as finding talent and sending talented guys to places and them having success, how do you do it? Where do you start looking? What's your process when finding specialists and working with specialists?
I'll tell you, number one, it comes down to the talent that we have. You know, the people who are in this room, some of them were not heavily recruited, not heavily thought about, you know, from Briggs, who was my first one down in Louisiana, to Grupe, who was I met him as a walk-on at Arkansas State. Shane McDonough, I think, we would probably laugh. First camp he ever came to, he thought he was a field goal kicker. I said, "Hey, man, you're a punter." And he was like, "Man, I don't even know where I am." For us, it's about using the relationships with coaches and the relationships with people that trust us and that we trust with our guys, which is really something that's also very important, to continue to keep the people we want, from people like Adam Samaha, who I think was ranked number 74 in the country, who was first offer in 2023 to Michigan, to Connor Lighton, who was ranked number 81 in the country, was first offer in the country, to Boston College 2 years ago with Ben Sauls. I think he had 16 scholarship offers. And I think he wasn't ever ranked anywhere in the country. For us, it's about people who trust me and people that I trust. And really comes down to being able to have talent come here. People who stick with us and understand that I know what I'm talking about and my staff knows what I'm talking about, what they're talking about, because I wouldn't be here without our staff. More so that those are the people that really build what this is. I know you've been in this industry now, and Ohio State got the best snapping coach in the country. They got Gunnar Daniel, who I couldn't love more than anyone in the world, and he's going to do a great job for Parker there. And he's built this snapping program as well. So for us, we're able to get talent. We're able to keep talent, which is one of the most important things, because everyone can claim talent. We're able to keep talent, and we think that we make talent better, and that's kind of been our motto about what we do.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I think the first time I ever came in contact with you, I'd just been starting out. It was actually when I was at Marshall in 2020, and I just gotten there. And a West Coast guy hadn't heard about Adam, and Kyle Siegler was talking about finding a punter. He's like, "Yeah, we're gonna get this guy named John McConnell." Adam recommended me to, and I was like, "Who is this guy? I'd never even heard of this guy." But the more I got to know you, I got to watch you work with Justin Rohauser at his pro day, which was really cool. I just saw how much you cared about these guys, and the relationship and the bond that these specialists had with you, I think really stood out to me a lot.
And I appreciate that. And I love Justin. And let me say, this is definitely something that is controversial. Justin should be a kicker in the NFL. And I know it's his choice to not be in the NFL or not take workouts and be done with his career after what happened to him. But I love Justin Rohauser. I would stand on the table for him. I think he's one of the best human beings in the world. Nothing that was ever said about him was true. He's a wonderful person. And if I ever got canceled for saying Justin Rohauser is a wonderful person, I'm good with that. He is but the relationship matters, and the relationship is what matters. And everything that happened at this camp is because of relationships that matter. And Kyle Siegler is a wonderful person. Just took David Mitchell, who wanted better kickers in the whole country, because he's a great coach and he's someone that we love at ULM. Didn't he recruit you, Siegs? Yeah. Marshall? No, he was there. Yeah, it was Goebel. That's right. No, I mean, you look at Shane, who I'm talking to right now. Shane met Todd Goebel at Marshall, wound up going to Towson because Corey was there at Marshall, and then full circle back to Todd Goebel there. Met Chris Dunn through Todd Goebel and Shane. We worked together last year. Chris had tremendous success, and now we have Braden Navarson, who we expect to keep that kicking success going at NC State, and they're doing a good job. And obviously, best 2024 punter in the country, Drew Miller, offered by Todd and Jackson, who, man, we love Jackson White. He's a Marshall guy. I'm sure he was there with you at some point. He might have been the quarterback when you were there.
He was. It was the year before. I definitely have a connection with Coach Goebel and those guys, and respect those guys a lot too. So
great, man. We had a great time with Jackson and Jackson and Todd had a really good time shooting shit together and having a great time before the Grozer Award. We get to sit down and be in a non-recruiting, non-setting where we have a drink, talk, have a lot of fun, and talk about Chris's success with a couple of people that we've known about for a really long time.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you know what? You brought up Shane. Shane, I got a question for you. Bouncing around a little bit, you were an FCS All-American, and then you ended up at NC State. What was that experience like, moving from Towson to NC State, and then also the experience to get to hold for Chris during his Lou Groza Award winning season?
It was a big jump. And the resources, the team culture at NC State was way better than anything. I had really good friends at Towson, but, the team spirit at NC State, the discipline by the team, it was a specialist room like Jackson Goebel. They always made sure that we stayed after every day. And, I'd say a specialist room at NC State's like a really hardworking room. Chris Dunn, he's there all day. Like, he's there. He works out. We'll work out till noon, and then we'll come back at 4 and be there till 8 p.m. So it's like the specialists at NC State. It's like there's a reason why every specialist throughout the years is always talented from there. But it's just a bigger bigger school, more resources, more money.
When you say resources, like how does that really help you? You know, obviously it is nice to have, but what's one thing that really you benefited from having more resources?
Medical staff, just medical technology. The training room at NC State was twice the size. It was football only. And then you got the nutritionist. I mean, there's just stuff at FBS schools that don't exist at FCS schools. So nutrition's one, the weight program's a whole nother level. The training staff, and even like things like jugs machines, having an indoor facility, stuff like that is just, you can always get work in at some point.
Let me also say, hey, just you could keep him on camera and you could ask him. He also carried on a little bit of lineage here. He signed with the same agent that AJ Cole has. So also the connections there, carrying on an NC State punting tradition in the NFL is something that I know definitely benefited him exponentially.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you get to talk to Cole or work with Cole at all? Did he ever come back?
He's never been back. But I've talked to him over social media a couple times and on little phone calls. But no, I've never met him in person, actually. He hasn't been back yet. He's I guess he's been busy and stuff over in Las Vegas.
Yeah. Well, I think too that mentorship or having someone you can check in with that, right? That's the greatest thing about going to camps and workouts like with Adam is you get this connection and someone you can refer to, right, when you're going through hard times. Absolutely. That's awesome. Yeah. I want to turn a little bit to another transfer specialist here, Blake. You kind of hopped on there a little late. Talk about, transferring to Notre Dame. Now, you're listed at 5'7", 180. You definitely generate power like a 6'3", 220-pound kicker. Tell me a little bit about, how you got your start and where's the power come from?
Well, I 580 would be a blessing, but you could take about 30 pounds off of that. Yeah. So, I obviously work hard in the weight room and everything like that. Adam will be the first one to tell you that I do not necessarily know where that power comes from. I just like to go out there and hit the ball high and far. But it comes with hard work. It comes with training, and we just like to go out there and have fun with it.
Yeah, that's really good, man. Being another guy in smaller stature, I was a little bit chunkier. I had a little bit more body fat. You look like you have 2% body fat or something like that. But talk about your transfer, why Notre Dame, or maybe not why Notre Dame, but how'd you end up there, and, why was it a good fit for you?
Yeah, why Notre Dame is a pretty simple question. Not many people get to experience everything that goes around up there, but if you do, everything makes sense. When it comes to, why I went there, I had one walk-on offer out of high school. I went to Arkansas State out of high school. I redshirted for there and then started for 4. I felt like I really maximized everything that I could ever do there. And so, with that extra year because of COVID stuff, I pretty much wanted to, take my chances and go out and test myself again and, play ball at the biggest level with a little bit of help from Adam and, having a good career and good work that it worked out for me. I was able to find a good home.
Yeah, that is pretty awesome. And I'm sure the experiences you had while you're there playing at one of the premier programs in the nation was, something you never imagined. How did Coach Mason help you in those situations where you're going through high stress or, maybe a little bit bigger stage than you've ever played on? How did he help you out?
Yeah. He helped like bridge that gap. We basically both got there at the same time. We worked through and learned a lot about the school and just how stuff works around there kind of together. And so obviously he runs a very good special teams room. He's done it at Cincinnati, and obviously he's doing it now at Notre Dame, where we were in a top 5 in special teams efficiency again this year. Kicking at Notre Dame and playing there, it does come with some very high level, very stressful situations. You understand that, and you pretty much learn to deal with it. It's a part of the job. Fighting and playing for the Irish out there, but. He creates very high stress game like scenarios throughout practice. I can't tell you how many different game winning scenarios and as simple stuff like I had to win a job again against another kid. And so everything that he set me up and how practices were conducted pretty much allowed me to be able to be a little more comfortable in those game like stressful scenarios.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the world of him. I think I've gotten to know him a little bit, since his Cincinnati days, and I think that's an awesome opportunity, and you definitely proved that you deserve to play at the next level. So I think that's really cool. I want to put the Colin. What were you gonna say, Adam?
Hey, Brett, real quick, I'm gonna throw one thing and then you can go. I'd say, hey, with Brian, number one, back to my question before about selling something. You asked me, how do I place the right people? When you're able to sell a Corvette instead of a 1982 Honda Civic, it's a lot easier. You got someone who's got 68 career field goals, goal conference, broke every possible scoring record like Blake. That's an easy sell. And with Brian, I think Brian, obviously from Cole Smith to Ryan Coe to Jimmy Smith to Kason Pfeiffer to Carter Brown, who is now at Cincinnati, that whole program, and Nathaniel, who just went up to, obviously Nathaniel, who just went up to Coach Fick in Wisconsin. Brian knows how to not only learn about kicking, but also knows how to monitor things. I mean, I talked to him this morning about Blake. He's done an unbelievable job, and he's getting, I'm sure Blake will tell you at some point, or you'll see him at some point, the kid they're getting now, the kid Spencer Schrader, is phenomenal. Brian he knows how to recruit specialists. He knows how to handle a room. And, I can say that, he couldn't have made the transition for Blake any easier. He's a really good person as well.
Yeah. I'd have to agree with that. A lot of those points that you're talking about there, man, he's done a great job. Colin, I wanted to talk a little bit about your journey. You've been through some ups and downs, but Kentucky has a rich history of, a lot of Aussie punters. How did you stay at the top of your game and win those battles through camp?
I think definitely first and foremost, it goes to when you sit behind a Ray Guy Award winner, it's kind of hard to argue with that if he's the best punter in college football. So once I've kind of, you got to know your role. You're definitely not going to beat out the best college punter in that year, but you can definitely sure as hell try, but also learn from them as well. So knowing my role and knowing what our special teams unit was trying to accomplish on punt, I knew that if I was going to play at Kentucky, I was going to have to Aussie. I was going to have to roll out. So why not learn it from the best? So I did, and I practiced it year in and year out. And when it was time, when Max's time ended, it was my time to go earn the spot. And I think I'm kind of known as an Aussie American around here now, but that's a little weird, but it is what it is.
Hey, Brett, I got to show you something.
Yeah.
But he's the only American in the country who holds the ball like this on an Aussie punt and puts his hand on top.
Yeah.
You got to see him take the ball end over end. It's ridiculous.
Teach me a little bit, because it's so hard. And one thing I've noticed in a lot of red zone situations, right, where Americans will try to hit a drop punt, they struggle, or they try to do it from their own 40 and the ball lands at the 30, right? And you're like, why don't you just spiral the ball? The problem is we don't work it enough, right? So we're not very good at it. Teach me how you kind of transition from that, and what was your favorite way to work that, or work on your drops, or what was your first best way to practice that?
So the Aussies, they play AFL since they can walk, unlike us over here. We're multi-sport athletes, but they kick a football since, or whatever they call it, Sharon, I believe is what they call it. And they've been putting that thing since they were young. So drill that Max taught me to do, one, just work drops and just holding the ball. If I've tried to teach some guys here at pre-draft how to do it, but everybody complains that it feels like it's going to fall out of their hands. I've had 6 years of practice at it now, holding the ball like that. But there's a drill. You just stand 10 yards apart from each other, and you really just try to control it. And then once you get better and better at it, you can have some competitions about who can hit it the hardest at each other from 10 yards apart, which you'll learn pretty quickly how to do that.
Yeah, that's funny. No, that's good. It's kind of like, a drill I've done with our guys where we'll get 10 yards away, and then they'll be slightly outside of a line, and we'll hit, essentially one step, just really trying to make good contact with the ball. That's sort of along those lines, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's really cool. I see Matt's on there itching to have you ask him a question. Matt, talk a little bit about you're playing up in Minnesota. How do you deal with playing outside in a cold weather situation? Would you call yourself a cold weather kicker?
And he wears no long sleeves either.
That's a real man right there.
No, I don't know if I'd call myself, an outdoors or winter kicker or anything like that. Growing up in Ohio, playing in that weather my whole life, that's kind of all I knew. It wasn't really until we got down here for pre-draft and, I'm talking with all these guys that started their careers down here or played their whole entire careers down here that I realized, okay, me kicking in 40-degree weather constantly is not normal. A lot of kids never have to experience that in college. So I wouldn't say that that's like who I am as a kicker, but it definitely is an advantage that I believe that I have going on to that next level.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I don't, being from California and I went up to Pennsylvania and played, and it was like, I don't know how people do it. It was, I never played in a snow game, and sometimes that driving rain is a lot worse. The cold rain is worse than the snow. Am I right about that? Or am I?
Yeah. Everybody up north would say that they prefer the snow over the rain.
Yeah. That's crazy. What is one of the coldest games you've ever played in? And also my question is, what do you do differently if there's snow on the ground or the field's frozen? I know at Minnesota, don't they have like warmers under the field? A lot of cold schools do have that.
Yeah. So at Minnesota, when the Vikings were, building their new stadium, they played at Huntington Bank at the time. So they put those resources into the university to have that heater underneath the field to keep it unfrosted the entire time. But in my coldest games, I would say I think it was 2019 against Toledo, Kent State Toledo Maction game, or just this past year, it was our senior night against Iowa. Those games were freezing cold, and the only thing that you could really do different is, stand in front of the heaters on the sideline, try not to, burn your shoe off because that's a very real possibility. And then when you get out there, you're just kicking as much as you can off the turf to get a clean plant down and really sticking it and trusting it.
I've heard of people using like a wetsuit. Have you guys ever heard of anyone using wetsuits or anything like that? Adam, you also kicked in cold conditions.
I played in Buffalo. The only thing I ever did differently is when it was super cold, I used to put Vaseline on my toes. I don't know if that's weird or not, but I used to put Vaseline on my toes because it was freezing.
I didn't want to hear about your interest, man. I want to hear about what you do in the kicking.
They all laughed around me too, but that's probably the most I had. I used to wear tights. I know he said we were laughing today on the field because he always wears 3/4 tights. And he said, but yeah, I always wear high socks too, man. It's, I didn't play. I mean, I played in cold, and I'm sure Matt will tell you that when it's Tuesday night and we're on Nickelodeon and it's a little bit of action and it's -4 degrees wind chill, it's probably a lot colder than being in front of 75,000 under the lights in Minnesota. But there's some cold games in the MAC, and everything. For me, it was always stand in front of the heater, put the warm jacket on, and I was a big fan of sweatpants over my pants all the time. I used to always wear sweatpants on the sideline.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, it's almost like wearing one of those huge jackets, right? The heavy parkas. Adam, since I got you on here too, take me back a little bit. Recruiting, I like to ask the good questions or the buzz questions that a lot of high schoolers want to know. A few do's and don'ts when you're reaching out to coaches. You've seen some positives and some negatives from specialists over the years. What's the best way to self-promote themselves on Twitter or using Huddle?
So just I'm one thing I say at all of my camps is that social media is the fake world. You have to be able to have a personal connection with a coach outside of social media, and you have to be able to at least build your relationship with a coach. You have to go show that you're interested as well as him being interested in you. If you're having two DMs back and forth, and I hate to say this about this, and all they're doing is inviting you to a specialist camp, you're not really being recruited. You're being hopefully giving a shot at a camp. For me, the best way to show things is to be unique rather than being generic. What I tell all my kids is if you're generic, you're going to be a general person. If you're unique, you give yourself an opportunity. So when you tag, and hey, listen, you've been a coach now for a while. I'm sure how many pointless tags you get online where you're tagged with 75 other coaches and the same thing. I think the funniest thing I heard was when Dan Lundy said it, I think, on his podcast. It might have been, I think he might have told it to me that someone else said it, or maybe I said it. Would you ask 5 girls to the prom by tagging all of them in the exact same post? Be a normal person. If you want to send your film and the coach is following you, shoot them a private DM. Also, I think it's really good, and I'm sure you've now recruited a lot of people. If instead of every second is about them getting an offer, if they were like, hey, coach, did you watch the Super Bowl? What you think of that? Something that can bridge the gap between you as very different people. So one person who I think is one of the better coordinators in college football is Pete Lembo. I love Pete. I think Pete is one of the better people in college football too. Me and him talked about a prospect a couple times, and he said, hey, Adam, that kid's a dude. Don't you want to hang out with him? Isn't that the person that you would want to be in your room? And I said, Pete, I already asked him to be on my staff. I said, that's a kid that's a dude. That's a kid you want to be part of and you want to be with and you want to be around. So what I would tell young specialists, number one, don't over tag people on Twitter. Don't post under coaches' posts. If a coach writes like a picture with his family because it's nice, or I know Daniel DePrato, very similar to myself, posts about Daniel DePrato. He posts his kids on the beach. He posted his family in Texas. Don't tag something under a post of his family. Be a human being and recruit yourself by being unique. Also, when it's time to be good, it's time to be good. A coach could love you. If you go 2 for 11 at their camp, it doesn't really matter. You have to be able to do your job when you do your job. So what I would say is, number one, train efficiently. Make sure you're training with people who understand kicking and know kicking. There's too many people who pop up and want to do kicking lessons for $40 on the weekend and call themselves a kicking coach in this industry. Also, perform when you have to perform and build relationships. If someone's going to take the time to give you what are we at, like $275,000 for scholarship, something like that? If someone's going to take the time to give you that, make sure you take the time to get to know them as well, and don't just think that you're only there for an offer so you could post pictures on Twitter, because Twitter is the fake world. I'll tell you, I'll transition just so you could say something to someone. You look at this kid, Jake Bates. Okay, this kid, Jake Bates, has never made a field goal in college. He's 85% career touchbacks. What?
Never missed either.
He's never missed either. Okay, so he's no. But hey, how about this? 85% career touchbacks, kicked behind Seth Keller, who's now at Kansas, and Cameron Little, who probably the best sophomore in the entire country. Him and Ben Sauls, Andy Borgalis, Kate Acosta. I see all too much of the 4 of them together as well. But when it was time to shine at Zauner, that's a 1A kid who never made a field goal and made every single field goal back to 57 yards, and he averaged 4.11. Which average? 77. That's when you have to do what you have to do. So for every young specialist, it doesn't matter if you get visits. It doesn't matter if a coach is talking to you. It doesn't matter what level of connection you have to them. If you don't perform, you're not getting an offer. But building that relationship allows you to get the opportunity to really perform. I think that Kurt Benedict does a great job of getting to know the people he wants to recruit. And I think that Mr. Woodring and Jamie loved him when Peyton committed there, and that was the reason he chose them over Alabama. So get to know your coaches, know what they are, and know if they're good people, if they're good family people, if they're good who they are. That means a lot as well. I'm a dad now. People that I would want to leave my son with for 4 years are definitely people that I would trust in this industry.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, Blake's still on the screen so I can see him. Brian Mason's a wonderful father, a wonderful husband, and a great human being. He deserves to get the specialists and have the relationships that he has.
Yeah. I think you hit on a lot, and we're going to get Jake on here in a second. But I agree with that wholeheartedly. There's been a few, very slim few, Adam, that kind of did what you said and checked in. Hey, coach, who you got in the Super Bowl? And it wasn't even specialist. This is back when I was director of player personnel doing recruiting. But that did stand out, and I might not have responded right away. But if the kid had sent maybe 2 or 3 messages like that, I might have been, more quick to respond. I can't tell you how many spam messages essentially I received from kids, or just like you said, it's always about, hey, I'm really interested, would like to get an offer. And it's also, I'm not going to say fake, but I've been to a few different schools, and when they just kind of follow you and say, hey, I'm really interested in blank school, and then all of a sudden you get to new school and they say, well, I'm really interested in this new school, you can tell they're just chasing an offer. I don't want you to chase an offer. I want you to find the right fit for you, and that comes from a coach and a player, fit in your scheme from what you do. But I agree with that wholeheartedly. All right, let's get Jake on here. Jake, I got a question for you, and Adam hit on it a little bit there. There he is. Had a lot of success kickoff-wise. Is it possible that you have the strongest kickoff leg in this class? Yes or no?
I think there's a lot of big legs in this class, but I definitely think I'd put myself up against anyone. I'm confident in that, but I know there's a lot of big legs in this class.
Adam saying yes too. So
he hit from 70 yesterday with no problem. He hit from 70 indoors in the Bills facility. Listen, there's a lot of big legs here. I'll probably have 8 people go in this class who are kickers. And let me tell you, there ain't no bigger leg in this class.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me a little bit, Jake, you transferred also, right? You've kind of been through it. How did you end up at Arkansas? You were at Central Arkansas before. Is that correct?
Yep.
Following in Parker Romo's steps there. What I know is a little bit before, but.
So I never played football like throughout my life. I was only soccer. So I went to Central Arkansas as a soccer player. And, so I played there for 2 years, and then I just I was kind of burnt out. And the way I started kicking was one of my friends from high school was trying to walk on at TCU, and he had a tryout. And so when we were home, we would just go to the high school field and hop the fence and kick some balls. And I was like, maybe I can get a walk on somewhere too. So I started taking video, and I sent it out to like every team in the country. And then Texas State, Nick Whitworth responded. He was the only coach to respond, said that there was a spot for me if I wanted it, and went there for 2 years and then transferred to Arkansas. But it was a crazy ride getting to Arkansas and then getting to where I'm at now.
Yeah, that is a crazy ride. Okay, yeah, I didn't even preface it with that option. And I think that's cool. There's a lot of soccer players that obviously make that jump. But what was your experience like? In Fayetteville, what did you think? You were with Coach Hurd and Coach Fountain, right? What was your experience like with those guys?
It was really good. Coach Fountain especially was super professional. He treated us like pros. He expected more than I've ever been around a coach expecting of their players. We had these things called accountabilities where we weren't doing what we were supposed to do. So if you don't have a kickoff over, 4-0 to the goal line, at least you have to do an accountability. Or if you miss a field goal, you have to do an accountability. If you bad punt, bad snap, whatever it was. But he just kept us so accountable to everything we did every day. And he's had such a history of specialists in the league. It's hard to argue. And some days it got really hard and annoying, but he has that. You walk into his office and there's all these posters of these guys that are playing in the NFL, and they've been in the same shoes you're in right now, and they're at where you want to be. So it's hard to argue with that. And then Coach Hurd, he wasn't on the staff when I was being recruited there. He came, I think, in April or a little bit later into that first semester, but he's been awesome. I talk to Coach Hurd all the time. He's a really good guy, always in my ear, really nice. But yeah, we spent a lot of time together, Coach Hurd and I, watching video and just talking. He was a lot more than just a coach to me. So yeah. He was really good to me.
Cool story about Coach Hurd is, was my first interview actually for a college football coaching job was at Akron when he was the special teams coordinator at Akron. And it was like 2019. And I was in Nashville at the time. He called me at 5 and he's like, hey, got a position. You want to interview for it? And I was like, sure. just drove like 8 hours, got there like 2 a.m., get up at 7, roll in the facility. We had a 4-hour interview. I didn't get the job, but it was just fun to hang out with Chris Hurd. But no,
Awesome.
what's cool is even when I was first starting out too, I was a high school coach in Tennessee, and he was at UT Chattanooga. And so I would go to all the nearby colleges and talk to the coaches and just pick their brains. And Chris literally sat with me. Coach Hurd sat with me for 4 hours then too, and we just bounced ideas off each other. I gave him the original Kicker's Bible, and we kind of connected over that. So we've always stayed in touch. He's a friend of the podcast, came on, but yeah, I can't say enough good things about those guys. Tell me a little bit about your prep process. What are you doing to prepare for the NFL draft and opportunities after that? Oh, and also, hey, before you even answer that question, I was going to ask, what's an example of an accountability? What was your least favorite accountability you had to do?
Oh, well, I mean, all the accountabilities for the kickers were the same. And then, so if like you missed, you had to do one accountability would be 100 yards of up downs. And so, you have a bad day. I had one bad practice where I really hit 2 kickoffs and missed a couple field goals. And I was down bad in the summer heat, but the snappers have to do like frog jumps and the punters have to do something else. I think they might have to do the same thing as the kickers, but it's not horrible, but it's not fun.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your pre-draft. What are you doing kind of briefly to get ready for this process?
I'm just trying to lock in, really, trying to get my name out any way I can. I think I'm probably the most unheard of kicker maybe ever entering a draft. I don't know, but just trying to do anything that I can to show that big leg that I have to separate me against anybody else. That's what I'm going to hopefully show on my pro day, and just show that even though I haven't kicked field goals, that I still think I'm one of the best kickers in the country. And I've been at situations where I've been behind statistically some of the best kickers in the country. With Seth Keller was, while I was at Texas State, I think he was a 90% guy. And then Cameron Little was the year before, was a freshman All-American. And I mean, he doesn't miss many kicks. So I was behind 2 of the best. And I think that, I mean, I can be with the best. And Cam and I would push each other every day. So I competed with him every day for the last year and a half or whatever it was. But really just showing that even though I don't have a lot of film on me, but that I still hit it with the best of them.
He was with Grupe's got 78 field goals. Trick's got 79. Chris had 97. Briggs obviously was the highest ranked person ever here. I think he was number 2 in the country at one point. And, finally healthy as a senior, 20 for 21. He makes just as many field goals as everyone. Obviously we were in Buffalo for 4 weeks, kicking in the Bills facility and then going out to Zauner. All 5 of them were 1A. He's proven anything that he could right now to be an NFL kicker. And as long as he does it on the 29th in Fayetteville with, Chris and Scott helping him, he should have a really good opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no question. I think too, and I'm even seeing this with my kicker who, Adam, you met recently, Isaiah Gomez, and he's just on the podcast, but having success or just continue to not quit. Maybe he didn't have the best statistical season, but having success at these camps as you go on and people really starting to see the full potential. I mean, look at guys like Jason Myers or, any of these guys that have been training for 3-4 years and they finally get their shot and they have a ton of success in the NFL. I think showing that you have that leg potential, obviously it goes a long ways.
Absolutely.
I agree with you, and I'm sure for every young kid who's going to be pre-draft and everything, if you get Gary's word of approval, it's really the only word of approval that matters.
100%. 100%. All right,
I couldn't love Gary anymore.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Briggs, give me Briggs. Give me the Golden Eagle. Throw him on there. Briggs, how you doing, man?
What's going on? How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm happy you guys are on here. Tell me what changed. Adam hit it a little bit, and obviously you beat up a little, but mentality-wise, what changed going into that senior year and the success you had?
Yeah. So, I made a decision after the season last year to kind of change how I was working out because I didn't really like how I was body-wise. So I changed how I was working out, lost about like 20 pounds or so, and then mentally-wise, when you go out there and you're always like thinking about something going wrong, you're not really going to perform at a high level. And really like having that clear mind when you go out there to kick is really what helped me out a bunch.
Yeah. Did you have any techniques? Is there anything, you thought of? A lot of guys will have a mental cue, right? Or something they think of when they go to strike a ball. Not too much, but something, they think about. What did you have, preparation wise before you went on the field?
So my big thing was I like to breathe. So I use like kind of a breathing technique. So like before I'd run out on the field, a couple deep breaths, and then you get to the spot, and I always take one big deep breath, find my target, and then start my steps.
He also went back to his high school stance, which was a very big change.
Oh, yeah, that was a big change.
Hey, just remember, Briggs Bourgeois was number 1 kicker in the country for a while, number 2 kicker in the country for a while. Stayed with Coach Waz at Oklahoma State when he was at Southern Miss, when Mississippi State and Alabama came calling late in the process, and went back to his high school stance, which really kept his slower down and slowed his pace and kept his chest back and really allowed him to have any problems in an operation be completely controlled, that he was able to do his job, and big change in his body and his stance and everything that he needed.
Adam, talk a little bit about that. I've heard a few coaches now hit on, having a slower approach or a more balanced approach. Why, when you talk to any high school kids, they don't think about that. They think of being as fast as they can on the ball. Why is a slower approach better?
I'll let him chime in with me too, because just remember, Briggs does lessons for me, and the number 1 kicker in the country in 23, 24, 25, and 26 are all from the state of Louisiana. So, I will tell you this. We talk a lot about pace and control. If you watch Blake Grupe, who's still sitting there, and I appreciate him being on because he needs to go to sleep. He's old man. But, hey, you watch all of them. What we talk about is on our second step, being on the balls of our feet and not grounding ourselves. By allowing you to be on the balls of the feet, it allows you to pretty much decelerate your body while gliding instead of jumping into your plant foot. And it's something that if you're one of our kickers, I know that Gary teaches a very similar thing. I know that Lundy and Brian Egan, who do a wonderful job, teach the same thing as well. James Wilhoit, who I think is outstanding, about gliding into your plant. You're on the balls of your feet. You're decelerating, not necessarily your body, but you're not accelerating to change the level of your shoulders and glide into your plant foot so you can stick and not create unnecessary torque. And that's why someone like Blake Grupe you said 180. Oh, well, 152 can generate 6,
Trying to give him the benefit of the doubt.
We put weights in his pocket. He can generate 63-yard field. He hit a 65 yesterday. 63-yard field goals and 4.35 minus 6-yard hang times. That because of how good his form is. By decelerating and controlling your pace and not being out of control, it's really an aggressive, positive motion. Bray's a great trainer. I'm sure you could tell one of the best things you say is always about our chest, keeping our chest high, eyes up. It's a hashtag, but it really is about how you transfer your weight downfield. It gets so much bad publicity from some camps because they want to say I'm teaching people to kick with their head up. That's never what we talk about. We're talking about keeping our eyes down, not back. So you see yourself at contact, and then you're able to transfer your weight to continue downfield to make sure you stand through contact. By no means would we ever want someone to pick their head up quickly, but by having your eyes come up, it allows you to swing through the ball, stay tall, and keep your momentum. And, I'll tell all my guys here, you come here. This is probably my lead punting counselor, and Shane too. He's been around for all 4 years. They laughed because at the Zauner combine, Gary raised his head, puts his hand, and says, who thinks they should kick with your eyes down? People raise their hand. He goes, well, you're wrong. And they all laughed because since they were 16 years old, I told them to make sure their eyes came up. So, it's one of those things that deceleration, tall through the ball, finish downfield, transfer of weight, momentum, linear approach, controlled. Too many people get fast. Too many people get quick. I'm sure Shane will tell you, when he talks about punting, don't get long, don't get big in your last step. Small steps equal big balls. It's all about pace and control, and that's really it. You watch Briggs. Briggs turned his feet to be a more linear stance instead of having his foot open his senior year, and it allowed him to get through everything.
I definitely agree with a lot of those things. I think kind of what you talk about too there with the eyes. It's not the head, right? It's the eyes.
Correct.
You're talking about the follow through and a linear. There's just something that, and this has kind of come from when I got to talk with David Akers and some of those guys, and talking about your hips are railroad tracks, right? So they're going at the target. If you have that right foot open for a right-footed kicker, well, your hips are naturally going to start going to the sideline. So anything else you want to add to that, Briggs? I know Adam said you were going to chime in, but he covered everything.
I'll say
He
the
really
best
is
thing-
my best
I'd
counselor.
say the best thing, just from being with Adam this long, the best thing he ever taught me, and he probably taught me this when I was like, when was the first time we met? When I was like 14 years old. So he told me the best thing I ever learned, what he told me was like, he's like, think about swinging a baseball bat. Like when you swing a baseball bat, you're not swinging like this, are you? Like, you swing and you kind of follow the ball. And I was like, ever since that, and that really always kind of stuck with me with kicking, kind of like after, just kind of following with your eyes.
No, I agree with that. I love different metaphors like that too. I think that sticks as a teacher. I got to teach high school for a few years, and that sticks in your mind more than anything else when they can compare it to another sport or something like that.
We agree, man. We it's how we teach, and there's not one. I'm sure as well as I do. Kicking is not a cookie cutter industry. I mean, you look at Matt Prater. I think he's the only one in the NFL who kicks differently. But I mean, Matt Prater slams his head down, crunches through the ball, keeps his head down, plants 7 inches in front of the ball as deep as can be, and swings away. And I mean, Matt Prater is unbelievable. This could be the best kicker, and he's one of the better kickers in NFL history.
No question.
So, if, as long as you could hit the same plant foot, hit the same swing, and I'm sure as well as I do, you kicked. It's really those last 6 inches, the 6 inches before the ball to the 6 inches after the ball. As long as you can do good things to get to those 12 inches, you should do a very good job with your contact.
No question. And like you just said too, it's all about the contact. I firmly believe that there could be a lot of things wrong, but if you're making solid contact, things will go right. So, all right. Well, that kind of brings us, guys. I know it's getting late there, but it brings us to our rapid fire section. Okay. So I need all cameras on. You ready to go? I will start with the specific person because I know, Blake, it is getting late and you got to get Betty by. Okay. Talk about, this is, again, it's rapid fire section. So you got a few words, you got a few sentences. All right. How do you evaluate your own performance and make adjustments in game?
I mean, obviously every game you try to go perfect, but in game I just try to execute the situation every chance I can, and whatever, like just take a little bit of take account for the circumstances and just the circumstances, the conditions that you're in, and just go out and execute.
Can you give me an example of one time where you had to make an adjustment in a game, and what'd you do?
Well, senior day this year against BC, it was 25 degrees and windy, and we came out for the second half, and about 2 minutes into the third quarter, and it snowed about 2 inches by the start of the fourth quarter. And so I got to learn how to kick in the snow that day, and so I learned how to stay warm, and hit a couple into the net, and I wore sweatpants on the sideline, and pretty much just went out there and did it live and hope for the best. So that was something, just be confident in yourself and go out there and do it.
Yep, plan underneath yourself, huh? Especially in that type of weather. All right, someone tell me. I need 2 people. Tell me, what was their experience like kicking in college, and how is it going to prepare you for the NFL?
Playing in college, I mean, it was really, you got to go through adversity. As a college punter, not every punt's going to be a good punt. You're going to have highs and lows to it all. So just being able to handle pressure and adversity is something I think that will benefit all of us throughout life. Going to the next level, it's just going to be more and more of that. So just continuing to have a level head is important.
Yeah. Have you had an example? Sorry to throw it back there to you, but have you had an example? Can you give me an example of when you faced adversity and came back?
I guess Texas Tech this year, they sent the house and I kind of rushed myself and I hit like a 33-yard punt out of bounds. And my coach Global wasn't too thrilled about it.
To say the least.
We kind of had a little conversation, and then halftime came out, and then the first drive of the second half, we were backed up. and I just got a hold of it, and it was like, I think it's a 59.49 or something like
year.
that. Yeah,
Biggest
it was
punt
one
of
of
the
my
year.
biggest punts of the year. So, and it flipped the field in a big moment we needed to. So,
What'd you do different? Did you just lock in, focus in?
I just made sure I held on to the ball, because when I hit the shank, I kind of didn't even know what happened. I just rushed myself so much. So I just made sure that I had a good drop, because, the drop's the most important part.
100%. 100%. Let me hear another punter. You better have an example ready for me.
Yeah, so this may not be fitting for everybody in this talk, but the guy sitting next to me will agree. Playing in the SEC definitely gets you ready for the next level. SEC obviously just means more. So, you're going against athletes that are definitely higher caliber athletes. And I think Shane will even attest to this. When he played an SEC team, he said it's way different of how they rush the ball, how they rush a punt. And, facing that every week definitely became easier as it goes on, but it definitely was never, quote unquote, easy, to say the least.
No question. And especially the crowds and everyone coming out, right? You can tell it's a big deal. All right, one kicker, one punter. Can you take me through briefly your training and conditioning routine leading up to this draft, or maybe just in a normal session? What is your training and conditioning program like?
So like I said, I changed my workout program. So I was working out with I was basically doing the same lift as an offensive lineman at the end of the day. We were doing the same thing. So I switched to more bands and not as heavy on squats and more flexibility type of lifts and stuff like that, and explosive lifts.
What was your favorite band exercise that you did?
So we did lat band walks is what we call them. And we just do 20 yards there and back. That was always my favorite, to work the hips.
Where did they go, lat? When I think of lat, I think of shoulders.
On your ankle.
Love it. Love it. Let me hear another one. Or let me hear the next person. Sorry, go.
Yeah. So like Briggs, at my first school, Kent State, I was just doing the regular lift as any other person on the team would do. And then once I got to Minnesota, it got a lot more specialist specific. So we were doing a lot more single leg squat, more explosive work, more rotation work with med balls. And that's when I kind of learned to change my own routine and how I warm up and get a lot more loose in the hips and in just different areas that you typically wouldn't think of. You'd think of, just your hamstrings and your quads, but there's so much more that goes into it, your abs and upper body too, that you have to work on and just be explosive with. So that was the major difference that I found and what's helped me up to this point.
Yeah, I love that. Briggs, you got something to add to that? You look like you're itching to.
Oh, no, I pretty much do the same thing that Trickett does. Talking to these guys and kind of what their lifts at the Power 5 level, because I'm at the G5 at Southern Miss, and it's kind of what I did this last year at Southern Miss is kind of basics of what these guys are doing.
Yeah, I do see that. I think that goes a long way with this type of lifts that you guys are talking about. All right, two kickers. How do you guys handle the pressure of kicking in a high stake situation? Better have an example ready.
I'll actually go on this one. All right. I'll talk about it. I'm a big breeding person. And I talk about at our camps, positivity. Positivity is the most important thing that you could have. I'm a super positive person, probably most positive person ever. I think that if you believe you can do it and you can go and do it, you're able to do it. And I'll give an example. So a long time ago, before, when you used to send DVDs to coaches, we had a 47-yard game-winning field goal to go to a bowl game in junior college. And I got iced twice. And that's probably one of my favorite kicks of my entire career. And it was probably in front of 9 people. My dad, my mom, and maybe 5 other people's parents. And, but I'm a positive person. If anyone comes to our campsite, you definitely hear me curse, but I'm probably the most positive person you could ever be. I think that having positivity, accomplishing small things, accomplishing little tasks, and believing in yourself and knowing you can do it is one of the more important things that you could ever do in this kicking world. And I'm gonna pick the next person because he definitely, I'm sure everyone could laugh at this, went through a time of not believing in himself to then knowing he could do it, and his positivity probably came right now. So we're gonna use Jake Bates to how he can handle pressure situations, because it was the first time he had some pressure field goal situations last couple weeks.
Oh yeah. When we started in Buffalo, the first couple weeks, I had just switched my steps. I was missing left, I was missing right, and so I went back to. This was all Grupe though. He was like, "Dude, just get back there and kick the ball." And I mean, so I went back to my old steps, and since then, I told Adam, if I'm going down swinging my way, and I mean, since then it's been a lot better since then. But I mean, and we were talking to Matt Wright the other day, and he was like, a big difference in guys that get to the league and stick, and then, or guys that get to the league and they don't stick, they bounce around for a little bit, is they'll go in for, 39 and under kicks, and they'll just think about just make the kick, not just swing. He was like, you just got to swing like you always swing. If you're thinking about just make the kick, you're going to miss the kick.
Right, because that's almost a negative thought, right? And exactly what.
And that's what I was doing at first. I was just trying to make the kick, and instead of just kicking the ball.
That's what a lot of people talk about with falling in love with the process, right? I know Shane Graham talks a lot about, like not even paying attention really to the result, but your whole, taking your steps back and over your whole approach, and just getting caught up in that, you'll lose focus or not even worry about what the end result is.
Yeah. And you've done it so many times. I've had one pressure thing in my career, my football career. We were coming back against Alabama at home, had a little onside, slow roller to myself with oh man, that was to get it within a 1-score game. And I mean, we practice it all the time, and you do the same kicks all the time. It's muscle memory is the word, I guess. Yeah. Muscle memory at that point. So trust it.
Man, I do love a great surprise middle dribble, man. There's nothing that gets me more hot and heavy and fired up than a
it was my fault to struggle in Buffalo. I moved the steps closer because I listened to Cameron Little that he was too far from the ball. So I'm sure Cam will watch this because he retweets everything about Jake. It was my fault the first week. We changed the steps. He went back to normal, and he's been lights out for the last 5 weeks after that first week.
Come on, Adam.
Cam said, hey, he's too far from the ball. He brought him down here and meet me because I didn't know Jake, and I met him only through Cam, and Cam's been coming here for maybe 4 years now or almost something like that. And Cam comes to every college training, and I was just like, man, all right, let's move him a little bit closer. And he hit a couple, and I mean, if you watch the kid hit the ball, he could stand 4 feet or 5 yards, and he's going to hit the ball 70 yards. So you're like, wow, that made a difference. And then he was spraying all over the place. He went back to his own steps, and he's been absolutely lights out. Just someone will give him a chance because of that light talent.
No question. And it's great that you have the humility to admit, when you're wrong. A lot of kicking guys.
I'm only wrong, maybe once in 15 years I was wrong. So I try to do that.
Yeah. All right, good. All right, here's my last question for you guys. I want everyone to go around, and we can start with Blake and people out of the room, and then circle in the room. But what are you personally going to bring to an NFL team? Go ahead, Blake.
I try to attack every day and every practice and every game the exact same way when it comes to just keeping everything simple. And so every day, I just try to go out there and be confident and just go out there and compete.
Love it. Matthew?
Yeah, I would say very similar to Blake. Very competitive person, but also very easygoing. And I think the mindset that I have going into kicks and kind of how I approach football in general is very serious, but also very positive. And, I think we're all on here and we all continue this because we love to do it, and just sharing that passion, really.
Yeah, Mr. Collin?
Obviously going off of them as well, attacking each day as, it's a game, practice, whatever it is. Also a big morale guy, though. I'm always about, doing things for other people, Blake's smiling in the left-hand corner, but he'll tell you he won Zauner strictly off of my holds and be singing to him in the back of his stance. So whatever I can do to make other people better, I'm about it. Put it in front of myself, but I'm definitely going to put myself right behind it. But anything to do to get people better makes the team better.
That's what I'm talking about. Sing to them.
I think just I'm a very coachable guy that wants to be as good as I can be, and I think I'm my biggest critic. And I mean, I want to be really good. I want to be great. And I always try things that I think will help. So I think that coachability, I guess.
Yeah, Briggs.
I'd say just bringing like a positive energy in the building, because I mean, I've seen it happen in our building. Like, when you got a bunch of guys just being positive, it just affects people in the right way, and it brings everybody up.
I'd say just showing up, just wanting to improve every day, being coachable, like Jake said, is very important. Finding a coach you connect with, and working as hard as I can to fit their scheme and be consistent in it. And then obviously just being good morale for the kicker, being a great holder is another thing that's important. So just being consistent and being coachable, I'd say.
Here, and Brett, I got you real quick. Rapid fire. Number one, Blake Grupe is the most confident person in the room. He's got enough swag to walk on the field. He knows he's going to make his kick. Matt Trickett, toeing down the middle plays in the NFL. I'm sure any single person in the world will know that toeing down the middle plays every day of the week when you have different holes, different weather, different everything. Toeing down the middle. Colin Goodfellow has got the most upside of any punter I've ever had at pre-draft. He is truly an Aussie American. He can hit end over ends, 4.7 plus. Between him and Shane, they both went over 5.5 on hang times with 55-yard balls. Here, most upside ever. Jake Bates, if someone could trust themselves as being a coach, if someone trusts themselves as a coordinator, they could catch fire. He's a kid who, like Brandon McManus, people said, oh, he's too quick, he's too dead. Brandon McManus, I think he's the third highest paid kicker in the league. Jake Bates is special. Briggs Bourgeois, he's got more balls than anyone. Hit probably the hardest kick of the entire year. In overtime with a backwards laces inside snap from 53 yards to tie the game or they lose, plain and simple. And Shane McDonough, I've said for a year, so I'm not going to say it. I've said for 5 years, so I'm not going to say it different. Best punter in the draft. He'll probably be the best kickoff person punting in the draft. He's got the best hands in the draft. He is the best holder. He's been with me for a long time, and I'd say I love that him and Collin were both on 1As at Zauner. I got it. That's been my counselor. He's been my guy since he was 16 years old. I said he's been great. So with that, and I will tell you, I'll stress one thing that Colin said. Gary was awesome for us this year. Gary allowed me to be on the field with them back, and the 14 of them that stood there together and watched each other have success and give each other high fives and were prepared to do a good job speaks world of them as people and them as personalities and what they would have to do in a room, because I'm sure from talking to NFL people, you have to be able to follow, but you also have to be able to lead. And that's something that's really important that we stress, because all of them are good and all of them have unique personalities, and there's people who need more attention than others. And, and I think all of them pretty much cheer for each other and do a good job, which was really awesome to see. I mean, our kickers went 62 of 63 inside of 57 yards, which was awesome to see together, which was pretty awesome.
Man, that's some great reviews right there, boys. I want to play for Coach Adam now. I want him to endorse me. I appreciate that, and there's some awesome words and awesome time. I appreciate you guys coming on. Adam, real quick, for those that don't know, and I'm aware now recently, tell everyone briefly what a 1A kicker or punter is in Coach Zauner's system.
Okay, so number one, Gary was my kicking coach. I love Gary. He's the only person in the world who could get 32 people. So I know he'll never be on Twitter. He'll never be on Instagram. And he'll never see the podcast. But I will tell you that there's no better person in the world. He's the best kicking coach in the world, teaches kicking right. And there's a reason why 32 NFL teams show up at his combine. A 1A kicker is someone who is able to start day one in the NFL. There has been 46 in the last 5 years, 46 specialists who were 1A, and I believe 45 of the 46 signed NFL contracts and were in training camp. And I believe there are 17 of them that are NFL starters. So, besides for everyone in this room was a 1A, as well as Grupe and Trickett. Chris Dunn was a 1A with us. Chris Stahl, who's the best snapper in the draft, won the Manley Award. Tommy Zuzos from UConn was a 1A. Austin Mock from Liberty was a 1A. We had a pretty good run this year. I think we have 3, 5, and 2. We had 10 10 1As from Gary out of the 14 in the world were in Buffalo for pre-draft. So a 1A person is someone that Gary will endorse and says an NFL starter, and it means a lot, and he does a great job.
That's awesome. That's awesome that you've had so many 1A guys. It just speaks, the world of your process and all that.
Good people coming here and getting better. It's not, right. All of us, we could prepare them to do a good job. They got to do a good job themselves. Like I said, I'm lucky I get the talent. I'm lucky people vibe with me. I'm sure you're in this industry. People, you either love me or you hate me. There's really no in between. It's either, hey man, Adam's awesome and we love Adam, and there's coaches the same way, or like, hey, that kid's weird, or he's different. And I'm absolutely different. I got my bun on at all times. I curse and I'm loud and I stand up for my guys. And if a coach does the wrong thing, I'm going to say it. And, but that's kind of what it is. We get good people and we're proud of the people that come here, and, they do a good job.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. You guys embrace that and that you are yourself. So that's great. And I think my last question too, Adam, you can kind of briefly answer this because you've had pro specialists before. How do you keep them, mentally and physically prepared during the uncertainty of the draft process, and then after too, right? When guys are trying to get opportunities, it might not happen right away.
You just got to make sure people do a good job, and they have to understand that if you don't make it right away, Tuesday is your Super Bowl. Okay, Tuesday is definitely your Super Bowl, and I will also tell you that all of these boys who are here are welcome back at my house for free until all their agents paid for them to be here. And we will prepare them for pro day. I run all of their pro days, and I'm sure all of us will see each other before rookie minicamp, and all of us will see each other before training camp. And those people who get along and have people to build on each other, like all of them. I mean, I think Colin actually said it best. If you're not leaving here with 4 or 5 new friends that are going to go through a much different process with you, that's good. I mean, if you look at these two right here, those 2 best punters that Zauner had, look, they're throwing drops to each other right now. They're literally throwing drops to each other right now.
That's awesome.
So for us, if you don't have accountability, you're not going to make it in this league, and you're not going to make it past college. You could be a great college player, and if you can't take accountability for yourself, that's fine. But you look at Parker Romo, who traveled the country with me as a league counselor for the entire fall because he knew he was going to have to play in the XFL. He brought his cleats, and after standing on the field for 7 hours, we would do an hour-and-a-half session to make sure he was prepared for every single opportunity he would have. And Nick Novak, who put on a wonderful combine for the XFL, Parker crushed it. Number 1 kicker there. He was absolutely dominant. And Parker, once again, at a 45, a 43, and a 40, he's got 3 of the longest field goals in the XFL. And Parker will play in the NFL again. And you look at other people there like Dominic and Jose, who have been here for pre-draft, who had numerous NFL opportunities, had some downfalls in their career, but they're still positive. You look at Jose, he said the road less traveled is something that happened. He missed a 56 short the other day with really terrible footballs in the XFL. I'll say it. It's like composite Amazon football. But, listen, the road less traveled is always one that's worth taking. And as long as you do your job, you hold yourself accountable, and you do everything. I'll tell you right now, kid sitting with the glasses on right there has a longer road than everyone in this process. No one knows what he's gone through the last 60 days of his life and how much he's helped himself and changed everything about him. A lot of things happen, and people like him and Briggs and Shane, who have been here for, I don't know, Briggs been here since he was 14, Shane since he was 16, Blake since he was 18. Things like that. Though, for me, I think most people will say I have an emotional investment in every single person, especially people like that. People like that. So, that's really what matters. And if they don't hold themselves accountable, you have to give them a kick in the ass sometimes. But the people who are here and the people who make it hold themselves accountable.
Yeah. Wow. Well said. And definitely, like you said, you've had a lot of success. I'm very happy that you introduced, Parker Romo into my life, and I got to work with him a little bit, one of your guys. And man, I'm so proud of everything he's accomplished and everything he's going to accomplish. So,
and hey, for everyone who was with Parker, you will see next week he's going to announce if it's, because people will watch everything I retweet. And I know I'm very happy the HK community follows what I'm going to say. But hey, make sure everyone messages Parker next week. He's going to announce if it's a boy or a girl for little Romo, which would be kind of cool.
That's awesome. That's very cool. Awesome. Well, hey guys, I appreciate you going on. I want you guys each to plug, have a final word or final say, and also plug your Twitter where everyone could follow you or find you at. And any words for the podcast.
Thank you, guys. Whoever's lucky enough to go to that Fresno State camp, he's a great coach, great kicking mind, awesome human being. See everybody as always. Eyes up. You go first, Jake.
Oh, shoot.
Jake Bates 30.
Oh, yeah.
At jackharlow.com.
Wait, so what was just said?
Hit your Twitter tag and any closing words you want to say.
Oh, my Twitter is Jake Bates 30. It's pretty easy. But no, just enjoy the process. Trust yourself. Have fun, man. And at the end of the day, it's about having fun with it, about meeting people. Like, I've gotten to meet all these guys. I've never met any of these guys before, and I know this isn't the last time I'm going to see them. So it's about the journey. That's the real treasure right there.
Briggs, go.
Guess I'll go. I guess, but first off, appreciate you having us on. It was cool, But I'd always say just a little advice for kickers is always believe in yourself. Bet on yourself against anybody. That's what I always say. So,
well spoken, well said. Blake, go ahead, Blake. You're on there.
I would just like some of the other guys have said, but trust yourself, be confident, do your thing, find a group of guys and a coach that'll have faith in you and support you. Adam's a good guy, good coach, bad driver, but everybody, all of us here working together and being competitive, and we all get better because of each other, and so that's what it's all about.
Shane, or Trick, or Colin.
I'm only just sitting right here.
I'll just making sure.
Go ahead.
For me, definitely, like everybody else says, enjoy the process. Love it. Trust in yourself. Absolutely. But again, football is not life. It is to a certain extent, but there is life beyond football. Find a good group of guys, not only train with, but I've met some of my best friends now here. Friendships, relationships that I'll treasure forever now. But again, for punters, trust yourself, bet on yourself. You can hit just as big as ball as anybody else.
Great, Colin. Love it.
Um,
Shane?
Thanks for having me. It's been a long journey, but it's been a great one. Pre-draft process has been a blast for me. Doing my own kind of training. I've actually been doing a lot of swimming. I think swimming has actually helped me a lot.
Hey, swimming is I'm with you on that, bro. Swimming is I used to swim in college. Swimming is great.
It's great exercise. So if you want to hit 5.4s and up, probably I would start swimming. But no, just do your own training. One thing I've also learned, especially from Zauner, is to do training that means something. So a lot of people do all these drills and stuff, but they're not helping themselves. So I'd say to do drills that are gonna kind of mirror the way you actually punt, so you're benefiting more. So train smart, not harder. Train smarter.
Train smarter, not harder. Matthew?
Yep. Thank you for having me on. So what I'd tell everybody is, for me, I am not somebody that talks a lot about myself or, is very flashy in any sense of the word. So, just keep your head down, work hard, trust the process, and really enjoy the journey and the people that you meet along the way.
Love it. Love it. Well, thank you guys for being on again. It's been Blake, Jake, Colin, Shane, Matt, Briggs, and Adam. This has been the Iceman Kicking Podcast. A word from our sponsors. This show is brought to you by The Kicker's Bible. The Kicker's Bible. Ever wondered about how many kicks you should do during practice after pulling your quad multiple times? Repeatedly snapping the ball over your punter's head? Keep getting dumped by all your girlfriends for missing kicks? Well, we can't help with all those things. But for some of those, there's The Kicker's Bible. Proven training methods and secrets used by NFL specialists. Written by yours truly, Brett Arkelian. With over 20 NFL specialist accounts, including personal excerpts from record-setting and Hall of Fame specialists David Akers and Shane Graham. If you are interested in any of these fantastic tips and excerpts discussed in this episode, visit IcemanKicking.com or go to my Twitter bio, Iceman_Kicking.